So here we go again, Rhys, on our journey of exploring AI and what the
Yeah.
hell does it mean. We've made episode 2, which is great. And I guess we're just on a journey of discovery to see what the useless AI is, but where you can have fun with it, and then what the useful AI is and where you can make money from it. So, what do we got?
Yeah, it's definitely an exploration today, Simon. The first thing, this is not particularly new news, but BBC's come out with all its generative AI chat about how they want to use it and what they think about it, which I thought would be of particular interest to you with your BBC connections.
Yeah, man, I
Uh,
am Mr. BBC. Yeah, I like that.
yeah, basically they're just like, we're going to start using it in some places, but we're going to use it ethically.
Ethically, using AI ethically, which means they're pledging what? Not to replace journalists, because I'm sure that's where the drumbeat will
No, they're
be.
not pledging that. They never pledge that. That's the dream. Uh, I think there's pledging like that. Some of the things we talked about last week around the legalities and copyright infringement
Yeah.
is there's a line in here where they sort of just list off all the things they're worried about, all the things they feel they have to say. These include ethical issues, legal and copyright challenges, and significant risks around misinformation and bias.
So this is kind of like serious. If the BBC are dipping their toes into it, and it's not just a PR thing where they're thinking we need to be seen to be doing AI. If they're actually exploring and using AI to make the output better, then I'm like you. I'm really curious to see how they're going to do that. And it could be from what you're just saying there, like they have their big election night. If you're watching this and you don't know the BBC coverage of the election, I just Google it. It's really good fun. They have lots of animation. They have lots of graphics to depict it. Maybe that's going to help them with this.
Off the back of that, because I think that's quite an interesting change. We talked about last time the New York Times hiring an editorial AI person in the newsroom, which I thought was kind of fascinating, and to see other journalistic publications doing the same is an interesting trend.
You know this shit
Yeah.
is serious. BBC are actually now investing time in it. Definitely.
So the knock on of this, and the thing that I think is quite entertaining, is a bunch of websites, a bunch of publications are taking steps to block big AI learning models from scraping data and training themselves off it. So a couple of weeks ago, the BBC again was like, nah, you're not going to use our news for your models. So there's a whole sort of wall going up against all of this information as well, which is another interesting wrinkle.
This is just history repeating itself. Like I am, and I only look 21 years old, right? I know I look incredibly
Mhm.
young, but I was there in the 90s working in broadcast when you suddenly had the internet coming along and scraping content. I worked in the photography industry and exactly the same thing. People were losing copyright to their images because they were just getting sucked into Google Images and they were losing money because people are just, it's a free for all. So it's just the next stage of technology and another thing for rights holders to try and protect as well. This is the other side of AI. It's an interesting side you've opened here.
So what happened there? If we're seeing history repeat, did they figure it out, or did people start getting advantages from just being open and sharing all of their stuff and not caring about it?
Six of one, half a dozen of the other. If you're like so for marketing, you want your content shared. Of course you do. That's the whole point of marketing. But
Mhm.
if you created an image or created something abroad, whether it's broadcast, print, whatever it is, and it's online, and you make money, that's your living out of it, and people are just using it, then I think the only people that really benefit were the people that would then do the searches and would make you would make a charge for doing a search, and then charging someone if they've used an image or used something illegally. So I mean, I imagine there's no solution to this other than organizations, the middlemen, making more money out of this, unless AI solves that problem. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I've heard some like the technology's not there, but like long term crypto AI crossovers, which I think are interesting. Or blockchain AI crossovers where you could theoretically store every single piece of information in the blockchain, which means it's uh, traceable. And then that means every time it gets fed into an algorithm, you can understand how much of it's been used by the algorithm, and people can be paid royalties from all of the different pieces of information that get fed into it. But I don't think anyone's building that, and I think it'll be a long time before anyone does, if we even want it.
I think where there's money to be made from providing that sort of service, yes, that will eventually be built because these are the questions that people are starting to ask now. So like in the last episode, we talked about we have to get like a copyright lawyer on because we need to get an understanding of where does this sit? If content's just being scraped and used differently, but it's still using that original piece of content, where do we sit legally? Because I still don't know that. I still don't understand that.
Well, I think they're still figuring it out. Like court cases are coming up all the time, and there's arguments about transformation because it's not the same thing. And I honestly don't think anyone knows. I think people have a lot of opinions, but there's no clear cut. This is the answer.
Yeah, it gets serious when people can prove that they are losing money from their own IP, from something they've created. And what I see with
Mm.
AI is it's opening Pandora's box. We've talked about this before. There's so much good that can come out of it. It's like the internet, so much good that can come out of it, but then it just poses so many questions. And when it impacts people's right to earn a living, then that has to be covered off. We have to keep exploring that. We have to.
Yeah, I think it's interesting that it's coming from both ends though, because there's the people who are creating high end stuff that's being used to create more stuff, but there's also a lot more people able to create stuff. So those people who are investing a lot of time and money into making good things are being screwed at both ends. The value of their things
Yeah,
being pushed down, and the other end is more of their thing. So like both sides are it's squeezing them out, which is I can imagine why people are upset, but also. Hmm.
I, I always remember the one of the there was that quite well known story in the kind of like early 2000s where there was a family were taking pictures and they put it on their social media profile, and somebody just came along and took it and used it for advertising, and it was a nice picture of a mum, dad, a couple of kids, and there they are enjoying their holiday. And the next thing they do, they walk into, I don't know, it was somewhere like Finland, or they walk into the Czech Republic on holiday, and they just see a massive poster of them enjoying their holiday, promoting someone else's goods. So, yeah, lots of questions to be answered. We're AI is posing more questions than it's certainly answering.
Oh, 100%. On to that, I'm going to jump ahead in the schedule because Christina, one of our writers, has written a really interesting blog on what K-pop's doing with AI stuff.
Right.
And in particular, she's shared this video, which I don't know if we want the audio. So they're not real.
They are
That
real.
right? Yeah, they're not real. So uh, that's happening. The performers aren't real. They have hired dancers, and then they have generated pop star faces and overlaid them, and are creating AI pop stars.
Could we hire a couple of male dancers and then superimpose our faces onto them?
I mean, we could. I don't think anyone wants that.
I think
Is
they
the
do,
problem,
Rhys.
Simon?
I think they
We
do.
got to ask who needs that.
It's
Where
another
who's
moral dilemma. Another moral dilemma.
I don't think it's moral. It's just, you know, I don't want, I don't want to see it. I don't think other people can see it.
Yeah,
Uh,
that is
but
crazy. That
no, it's
is crazy.
absolutely crazy. And then downstream of that, in this blog, she actually explores some really, really interesting ideas about content production cycles and how fast you can produce content. How much content do we want? Like if we're producing content and you don't have a limitation of this person has to be in the studio and this person has to do all the dancing and film all the videos, and you can actually get 5 different teams and overlay their faces onto the dancers, how fast can you produce? Can you produce a new album every day? And then it becomes a question of how much content do we want, and how much content can people consume without being sick of it? Like, what's the saturation point? And that's one of the areas I'm super curious about, is how much is too much.
Again, though, something that we've talked about before, that you can't just program. Surely someone didn't just type basics in, like just any old nonsense, and it suddenly spewed this out. There has to be some creative input to make this happen. You can't just press buttons and this just appears, because then the answer to your question is there's going to be far too much content. What's the point?
Exactly. Exactly. So what's the differentiator? Like, if passable stuff is this easy to create, is there just going to be like a million good things?
I, I don't know. Probably. But again,
Yeah. And
but if you it comes back to this point about where does the human sit in this creativity? There has to be creative input, because if a million of these videos you can just press buttons and it automatically uploads, surely the one with the human creativity, the one that can, the nuance changes, the input to this and the output, surely that will make that one stand out more than the rest of these.
totally. But also, okay, here's a scenario for you. What if they decide we're going to produce an album every week, which is crazy, and they're just like, well, 1 in 5 of them will actually be an album that is like has human input. The other 4 are going to be fully AI generated. Like, just keep the ball moving. Uh, what's the ratio of real to fake stuff that will cut through?
Don't know.
And will
Who knows?
people even like producing a good album every 5 cycles? People will still listen to the other ones that are average. And the way fandom works is people are hooked. Uh, so how much, like, what's the ratio there where you can still pass off as being like a creative, interesting person and then just service this need for constant content?
All right, now let's put this in the context of marketing content.
Go
Good,
on.
good, solid content. How do we use a platform that generates this to make better marketing content?
Oh, easy. I mean, not easy on the video end, but on the sort of writing end, it's, as you said, still a lot of human intervention, a lot of editing, but just speeding up cycles again. You can produce stuff faster. You can write more. You can create audio off the back of it. The outputs are like massive. For example, if I write a blog, let's take Christina's blog and we put it into an AI generating voice and make it sound like a podcast. Now we've got 2 pieces of media. Same thing, but 2 pieces of media. I don't know. We get some animation. We get Matt, our video guy, to add some animation over the top, and now we've got a video. So everything's just scaling a lot faster. And I wonder if, so the question for me now is one of like human consumption, of at what point can we switch off to things? At what point are we saturated with the same thing and we go, we don't care anymore?
So if you look at Google Images and I don't know, the billions of images that get uploaded every whatever cycle, and you look at YouTube, and the vast majority on YouTube is, in my opinion, not that good, right? It's everyone can be a broadcaster, everyone can publish something, but it's still not that good. I'm still not 100% convinced that just because AI can make things better, if your idea is still crass and boring, it's still going to look and be relatively boring. Because I think we're in that situation already. I can't. Facebook's now just full of video recommendations and adverts, right? But I still look through for the good stuff, the stuff that actually is going to entertain me, the stuff that actually has got a bit more craft behind it, a bit more storytelling behind it when it comes to the video, not just another compilation of fails or a compilation of, funny things that pets do. So again, there will still be a way that people can use technology, and that's a really good example that you've just given there of one blog, and then you create lots of assets really quickly out of that single entity. There's still an element where stuff is going to be better and viewed more than other stuff, because you need the creativity behind it. You still need that.
100%. But I think thinking of it as a hits based model is quite interesting, because no one creates consistently amazing things. Like, it's very rare that someone consistently creates like, this is great, this is great, this is great. Even go to like your favorite creators, and you'll be like, this one's good, 1, 2, 3, 4 videos. Oh, this one's good. So if we're already operating like that and people already expect that, then can we lower the amount of time it takes for someone to not create the good things and maximize their time focused on the great things?
Right, now you're talking. Okay. But between all of that, you're still going to get people who don't think like that and aren't that creative. And there's just going to be lots of nice looking but crap stuff in the background, which enables the better people to have better output, right? Because they can focus more time on the good stuff.
Oh yeah, absolute wall of shit. That's definitely coming.
I still think this bodes really well for content creators. We've had this conversation. You're right. There's a moral maze in front of us. There's lots of questions that are going to need answering. But fundamentally, on the journey we've been on so far about AI, it gives people more time to be more creative. It takes out the stuff that takes time and time and time and time, and gives you more focus on your creativity. That's what I'm learning so far.
Yes, and opens up new angles where you're like, oh, I couldn't do that before. Now I can just whack an image on this. Or I was talking the other day with someone who just wants to create like a comic strip, who has one of our writers, and neither of us have particularly good drawing skills, but we can jump in mid journey and just be like, generate this. And now the people who needed illustrators in the past and had to pay people, which is one of the reasons people are upset, is not a problem anymore. Now the people who have the base idea can go and execute on that idea at a faster rate.
Right. But then again, we have no way of answering this question. But then when it comes to the illustrators, then they have to adapt, right? They have to adapt and learn how for them to then use AI and be better than someone just inputting some ideas and the images immediately are created. The illustrator has to adapt what they're doing. That is a fact.
100%. And this is where the BBC stuff gets really interesting. I was talking to an artist friend the other day about this. To become a successful artist requires like a different, like an identifiably different aesthetic, and enough work that people notice it, and enough output. Usually those two things get you notoriety. Those are the two easiest things for AI. Like that's the recipe for AI to replicate your work. So there's this strange like cycle of the people who are doing the new innovative work, who are feeding the machine, are simultaneously getting screwed by the machine.
Yeah.
And like, for me, the question is, what's the incentive? Like, they're not getting any kickback from it. They're putting their work out, they're getting attention, and then it's getting chewed up and anyone can create it.
and again, just bringing this back to the context of the industry that we work in, we get asked a lot by clients for more creative ideas. They want more of the more creative stuff. We've moved beyond. Okay, we've covered this off before. Here is another ebook, and here are some social cards to promote it on the channels that you think your audience is going to be sat at. And I think again, there's no one-on-one. Here's the plan. This is what your marketing suite looks like. But what we do know is we can amplify it massively. We can create so many more assets for not vast amounts more money based on these tools that you and I and the rest of the team are experimenting with and exploring, right?
100%.
Yeah.
100%. More fun news. Finally, an image generation tool has cracked text and image generation, which is kind of massive. So now you can generate images with text in them. Well, these are weird images. I like seeing what other people are doing.
Is this your personal choice? This is weird.
This is not my personal choice. Interestingly, Midjourney, which is the other one I'm not going to click into it because you can't see it. But yeah, I don't know. What do we want? A t-shirt with the words Simon. What's Simon doing on the bike? Well, it's not going to create that. There you go. And
it started.
I started. I mean, we've got a countdown timer. I mean, I got the words right, which is pretty huge. I don't know if anyone else has cracked this yet, which is nice. Because we've kind of talked about it like, could we do some branded stuff? And they're getting closer to it.
Okay, this is, I absolutely see. Can you be more specific if you put t-shirt with the word Simon on a bike, can you then give an idea of what you kind of want the image to be?
Yeah. Like, I mean, what image do you want it to be? Do you want like a man t-shirt? Do you want... I know you love this one.
Yeah, okay, this sounds good. Let's test it.
Yeah, you can be pretty specific, it looks like.
Look at that. Hang on, does that one on the right say Simon is a bike? That doesn't say Simon is a bike, does it? I wouldn't want that.
It just says Simon. It's failed there. Just says Simon bike. Doesn't even say bike.
Go back to some of the others.
That one actually looks shit close up. But
Simon on a bike. Yeah, but look, it hasn't put the N over the... Oh, I see. It's taking the fold into... I mean...
Don't know what it's done there. Also, is that a horse with handlebars? Cool. Cool.
No doubt. Yep. Okay. I mean, I get where this could go, and this is only going to get more nuanced and better, right? As it gets refined and tested, and
100%. And I think start working that in with some of the other stuff that's happening. Like, some people are doing some interesting stuff with Stable Diffusion and animation. This is some of the best stuff I've seen anyway, where people are sort of taking, I think this is an AI generated image, and then like just animating it and almost to the level where I'm like, this looks realish. Like, there's some of it's a bit weird, but it's definitely getting there.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm again as a 22-year-old, or someone who looks 22. I just have been there. I remember at university when Photoshop in my last year suddenly became a thing, and it just looked like a badly stitched together image, right? There was no such thing as a really well crafted digital image. And then just as you see the technology goes on and on and on and on, there's always been someone who's had to stitch it. Someone has to do the stitching. But now, again, this is almost like instant. And that's what AI is. And I'm stating the bleeding obvious here. When you start being able to instantly mash stuff up with the creative process, the brain that goes behind it, again, you can see the value in the different content that you can make. It's more engaging. You can produce more of it. From a marketing perspective, it's huge. This is still the Wild West, but we're starting to get an idea.
Curious to get your thoughts on this. Zoom released a couple of weeks ago something called Zoom Docs, which is their version of a document tool that integrates with Zoom, has a lot of AI in the background, sort of takes transcripts, takes meeting notes, turns them into lists and tasks. A question I have, do tech companies just reach a certain size and decide they need a word processing tool? Is that just the natural progression of big tech? Because we've got Word, we've got Google Docs, we've got Dropbox Paper, we've got Zoom Docs now. Is there just a point where they say this is something we need?
So for Zoom, this is for me. This feels like a natural marry up, right? You're in Zoom, and you want something to make sense of some of your conversations. You need a tool to be able to do that. You're going to use AI. So I get that. I get this connection. So I don't know the answer, like when you generalize it like that, but case by case, I can understand Zoom doing this because it makes sense. It's connecting. It's in the conversation.
I don't know. The cynic in me says, do we need another word processor?
Yeah, that is quite a cynical approach or a cynical opinion, but that's why I love you so much, Rhys, with your cynical, straight talking New Zealand ways. But again, if you are not showing as a tech company that you are embracing AI and improving or enhancing your product with AI, then people have that level of expectation. So yes, I'm sure you can integrate anything. We work with some fantastic companies that integrate, work together. They partner to provide an even better service. But for Zoom, this is how they're on that level there from what you've just shown me. That's how they're embracing AI from a consumer, from a customer facing side of it. And that's what this has all got to be about, right? Any AI development, ultimately, it's got to be better for the end user who's going to be consuming the product or consuming a piece of content, right?
Yeah, completely. Completely.
So
My brain's just been on
I put a more positive spin on your skepticism.
Yeah. Yeah, just a curious wrinkle, really. I don't have a lot of opinions on Zoom's docs. I haven't used it yet. I don't even know if it's out. I just saw it and thought, great, great, can't wait to jump in there and have another document. Uh,
Go on, give us one
other
more.
weird stuff. Other weird. Oh, let's see. What do we got? I'm kind of fascinated by the pixelate stuff and this goes back to what's real and fake. Uh, the newest Pixel, you can I'll just play you this, but basically, ooh, you can take images and then just swap out faces. So, say you didn't
No.
like that photo, you switch it for another. You can just switch it for another one. Um, so I don't know, nothing's real anymore.
Oh. Oh man, people are going to lap that up, aren't they? Consumers are going to love that.
Yeah, absolutely. Uh, and it's just kind of the next level of people curating things to an extreme level where, I don't know, obsession with self image is just going to skyrocket, I think, a little bit because people are going, that's not the perfect face, but I can change it to the perfect face. And are
Oh
we going to see
man,
people just using the same face again and again? Are we going to see people like, yeah, are people even going to look like what they look like in person anymore? I just feel like it's going down that rabbit hole of self optimization even more.
again, I thought we'd like society had calmed down a little bit when smartphones first became a thing, camera phones became a thing. That's all you saw. My daughter is now 21. When she was about what, 12 or 13. Oh, Jesus. It was picture after picture after picture, and then things calmed down. This then sets another fire. Mm, yeah, I'm not sure.
Well, it just makes it easy because you already have things like Facetune where you can like change the shape of your face, and this
Yeah.
just seems like the next progression of it, where people are curating everything to an extreme level. Uh, so that's fun. I don't know what's real anymore.
Who
I
knows?
wonder if people will just tap out of the digital space because no one knows what's real anymore.
Are you real, Reese? Am I talking to a robot?
Yeah, people ask that a lot. It's more often than you think.
Come on, let's have an am finally. Cheer us up.
And finally, I got two things real
Go on.
quick, and then we'll end finally it. I don't know what this is all about. These companies are making like wearable AI devices.
Oh.
I don't get it.
Okay.
uh, so you just everything you do is just stored. And oh, here we go. I've got use cases. I mean, that's a pretty good use case. Uh, I don't know what to think of all these AI devices people keep talking about making. There's another one, I haven't got the link here, but they've made like a pin that sits on your lapel. Same concept, I think, that just records everything and pulls out the interesting bits. I have a friend who's obsessed with note taking and note taking tools, and he's actually just gone through a migration of how he takes notes to a new platform that's open source. And I kind of am. The question I keep asking is like, what are you doing with all these notes? Like, what's the use of them? Are you just hoarding notes? Are you going back to them? Because I take an insane amount of notes, and 90% of it I never go back to, and it's not useful, and it just sits there. And there's a big if you want to go deep into a rabbit hole, there's a big note taking like community around that does interesting things like takes all of your notes, and if there's linked phrases, it'll link them together, or linked ideas, and it'll be like, here's all the notes you have taken on AI. Here's all the notes you've taken on chicken recipes. Uh, there's a concept called second brain, which is basically you don't need to remember all of this stuff. It sits here, and whenever you need to access it, it's your personalized Google. Do we need it? I personally wouldn't find it useful. I'd probably look at it and be like, cool, I've put the same idea down 15 different times in 15 different places. Uh, but there's this weird obsession with storing and collecting everything that I'm kind of fascinated by.
So the late 70s, and then when I was growing up in the 80s, man, it was all about the electric gadgets. Who would have thought you needed an electric carving knife, right? And then that was closely followed by an electric tin opener, right? And then you had gadgets, gadgets, gadgets. You had entire great big magazines dedicated to gadgets. And you look back now and you think, well, people obviously thought they needed it at the time. And I think AI is just going to spawn another load of these gadgets that we'll probably look back with in 5, 10 years. And maybe when it comes to things like note taking, yeah, there's, I don't know, if your job entails a lot of note taking, a lot of conversations, meetings, maybe it is going to be useful. I'm with you. Can't see the point unless I'm going to press a button and it gives me in one succinct paragraph all the important stuff that happened in that day. I don't want like reams and reams of notes. Like, I didn't want an electric carving knife, right? But my dad still got one. We never used it, just stayed in the cupboard. But if AI takes us to the point where at the end of the day I can press a button and it goes, hey, Simon, here's the key things that I found out today, and it connects all the dots, yeah, fantastic. There's a use to it.
Yeah, I think you're right. I just can't see it personally. It just seems like a lot more information that I don't necessarily need. But maybe I'm just grumpy today. Last thing, these guys at State of AI released their State of AI report a couple of weeks ago now. It is 150 slides. Pretty good read. Very dense read, a lot of technical stuff. But one of my favorite things they do is predictions.
Oh, yeah.
So they went over their 22 predictions based on their last round of research, and then in their new research, they go through and say, did this happen? Did this not? And as you can see here, they hit on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 out of 10, which is, yeah, I mean, I just appreciate they're honest about it. But they've released their 10 predictions for the next 12 months, which, as a finishing piece, I thought we could chat about. Some of them are dense and we can skip over them, but one is a Hollywood-grade production makes use of generative AI for visual effects. Not a shock to me. I'm surprised.
We can't already see that. Some of the examples you've shown us already, like the K-pop example, I mean, that's not bad, is it?
No, and I wouldn't be surprised if it's already happened. No one's talking about it because we've had all the strikes. A generative AI media company is investigated for misuse during the 2024 US election circuit. 100. I don't know if they'll be investigated, but 100% stuff like that's happening.
Yeah.
It's probably along the lines of what we were talking about, where you can just generate tens or hundreds of articles on a topic and just spam the internet very quickly. I wouldn't be shocked.
Obviously, just the legal small print here, we are not suggesting that this is going to be anyone other than just a lone person with their own political agenda who is a voter. We're not suggesting that a party would do this.
No, we're certainly not suggesting that, Simon. No conspiracies here. Self-improving AI agents will find a use case. Yeah, that's probably a bit technical for us. Tech IPO markets unthaw, and we see at least one major listing for an AI-focused company.
Yeah.
Again, that's the shock at all. The Gen AI scaling craze sees a group spend over $1 billion to train a single large-scale model. That might, I wouldn't be shocked if that's already underway. This one I loved. An AI-generated song breaks into the Billboard Hot 100.
You've already said what we don't know. I mean, the video we saw earlier, I don't know. I wouldn't have known. Would you have known? I wouldn't have known.
The big question for me is what does it matter if we know or not? Does it change the quality of the thing you're looking at? Because I think a lot of people get caught up on this is AI generated, so therefore it's not as good. But if they didn't know, who cares?
I mean, frankly, there's been so much crap in the charts recently, then yeah, you're right. If it makes some of that crap better, let's do it.
Yeah. Anyway, there's a bunch more interesting stuff in here. I've pulled out a few, but we don't need to go through them today. Yeah.
So what have we learned on this second trip into the world of AI? Well, we've learned that AI is becoming freakishly good when it comes to content, and it's becoming much more nuanced again. We've looked at where AI started to try and put it into context of where it sits within marketing and how Again, it enables you to create more content. Again, no duh. But I also think we've continued to explore this theory that AI is still only going to be as good in terms of content as the human that's controlling it at the top and controlling it at the bottom as well. I feel we've found more evidence of that.
Good wrap up.
That's a good wrap up. I've enjoyed this journey again with you, Rhys, and I very much look forward to episode 3.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Until next week, Simon.
Cheers, honey.